But the question you asked,
I'm sorry, when we talk about demeanor, are we, essentially what you're saying is he's rude, he's a jerk? I mean, can you kind of put that in terms that what do we mean by demeanor?
well, if you read the California courts in California courts of judges, I think a typical comment you read in there, whether you hear from attorneys if you talk to them, is this one, quote, he's abusive in court, doesn't get the argument, and then gets angry at attorneys who made them. I think that speaks for itself. I think it's your question is a difficult one to ask and to answer, and I've wondered about it myself many times. If you had 50 judges on the bench who were all, mild-mannered and had good demeanor, and they were all smart and did really good jobs, but all of them were, English somehow. Would that make you feel okay as a woman going to court, and they were all male, but they were, let's say they were from, let's exaggerate, let's say they were all from from England. Would that make you feel like you had a court that was reflective of your values, where you thought you could use your experiences in a way that the court was going to understand when you made arguments? I don't think so, but I don't know what exactly the formula is. I do know that you have a judge here who is not particularly well thought of in the legal community, and that is a decision you and the voters are going to have to make. You're going to have to compare and decide. Was there? I feel like there was another part to your question that I didn't address.
I'm sorry, I rambled a little bit. No, I feel like you're addressing my essential question. Was that I think some judges have gotten on the bench through appointment and some through challenge, and I think there are mixed feelings, I think, among sitting judges about when it's appropriate to challenge a judge and when it's not, and I think people have different opinions on where you draw the line or which factors are best to take into consideration. But I think you answered my question.
Well, if I may, because I thought I remember that part. Let me just say quickly that I think that the prevailing attitude was, when the country was founded, that all judges should be appointed. They should be appointed for life. But as with the country evolved, and particularly starting with President Andrew Jackson, there was this reform movement to actually make judges accountable. And that's the environment we found ourselves in when California was founded as a state. So they put into the Constitution, and in the second and third constitutions that they wrote, a accountability clause which makes the judges stand for election every 6 years. Now, of course, the judges all feel like they should not have to stand for election, and you reported, I think, quite vividly some of the depositions that were done around a case that revealed how the judges react. That is, during when the filing period comes and no one files against them, it was reported that all the Republicans judges would get together and they would have drinks. And to me, that is understandable. I would feel the same way, I'm sure. But that doesn't mean that members of the public should be overly concerned with how the judges feel. They should be concerned with did this judge do a good job? Is there a reason to challenge him? It's not easy to challenge any incumbent, particularly a judge. So I think the safeguard is very safe, if you will. You're not going to be able to challenge a judge and successfully challenge a judge who is doing a good job. You're not going to be able to successfully challenge a judge who's a pillar of the court, who is well respected. It's just not the way it works. You could not challenge the dog catcher if he was a incumbent and win unless there was an issue. Incumbency by itself is a tremendous safeguard and a tremendous advantage.
Just along those lines, you mentioned there are two Hispanic judges on the bench. Are either of them supporting your candidacy?
I believe they were both remaining neutral.
What do you read into that?
I would rather not say.
Could we infer that they may feel torn between wanting to support the bench, but on the other hand, wanting to support your candidacy?
I think you know, we would all best be served if you made those inquiries and you know, decided for yourself after a reasonable investigation, rather than, you know, asking me to speculate or you know, put them in a further in an even more awkward position.
I was wondering, as a PD, did you have any experiences with Judge Mellon yourself, or was that?
None that I can recall, so I would say with almost absolute certainty that I never appeared in front of him.
Another question you're wondering is, why a judge run for you? Why not another political office? Why going back to the courts?
Right. I've always had an interest in the law and public policy, and to me this seems like a natural place to go. I could have run for a number of elected offices that don't have very much to do with the law, but I was not interested, just as I'm not interested in a executive or administrative position somewhere, because although I have some management experience, that's not, you know, my calling. My interest has been on the Board of Supervisors to be a lawmaker, and you know, for the last 20 years, I have been working on that intersection between the law and public policy. I could go and practice law, but it doesn't have that aspect of public policy to it. So this seems to me a very reasonable option. I also think there are some exciting opportunities in criminal law particularly, but also in some other areas. I could tell you, I mean, we know that there are 125,000, I believe, state prisoners being released every year from state prison, and 80% of them reoffend within a year. That does not make us any safer, and we need to find a solution to that. I read in the paper the other day that Attorney General Jerry Brown said that when he left office, I believe he said that there were 700,000 state prisoners, and now I think we have. I'm going to go back because I don't. Let me take that back. I don't remember the exact numbers, but what he said was that the rate of the number of prisoners that we have has increased, you know, fourfold since he left office, and I don't think anyone is any safer. I think it'd be very interesting to explore the idea of having a court-appointed counsel program for what is now pro per landlord-tenant cases. I think that would be you know, a very, very interesting thing to do. I think that the self-help center that the court has right now needs to be much better funded, so that people who don't speak English can access the courts. I see people wandering around City Hall, which is next to the civil courthouse, all the time, trying to either find the courthouse, find the self-help center, or find you know, legal aid or some kind of attorney. I could go on and on. These are issues that, you know, they are public policy issues, and this would be the best way to be involved.
We're running out of tape and disk space, so I think we're about ready to wrap up, but I want to make sure, if in case, is there anything of particular importance that you feel that you haven't had a chance to cover that you want to tell us?
Well, it's been said before, but it's worth repeating, that a judge is very much like an umpire. And if the analogy is baseball, you do not have to be Hank Aaron on the field. All you have to do is know the rules, know them very well, and apply them in a fair and consistent manner. That's what makes a good judge. I am more than amply qualified to be a judge based on my 20 years of experience not only in public policy but in the law. And I think when you compare me in particular to my opponent, that the voters should choose me hands down.